Recording is in progress. Yuki Tsunoda's in the points.
Anastasia, this is the wrong podcast.
Okay. I'm sorry. That's our other secret Formula One podcast. Yes. Hello,
You know people are
everyone.
now going to start looking for our Formula One podcast now, Anastasia.
If they can find it, they deserve it.
Well, maybe we might be able to find it on our Substack.
Ooh, you never know. Oh man. Okay. Welcome to Ground Pass, the tennis podcast. You have found a very excited Anastasia and Nick. Nick, you're a Yuki fan, right?
Who isn't a Yuki fan?
Okay, thank you. Who isn't a Yuki fan? Everyone loves Yuki, and he is in the points in the Bahrain Grand Prix, but that is not what we're here to talk about today, even though we're super excited about that. We're here to talk about Team USA. That's our subject.
USA. I mean, I'm practically American at this point, so...
At this point, we have adopted you. You may be part of Team USA,
Not
but
bad for a man who's never actually been.
exactly, all you had to do was join a podcast. But yeah, that was also another exciting thing to talk about today. We have so much to talk about. We cannot wait. But first and foremost, I want to start putting this on in the beginning. If you're listening to us, if you love our little banter and you love all things Ground Pass, please subscribe anywhere, usually YouTube, subscribe on YouTube. But we would love to hear from you. Drop a review, drop a like, drop a comment, and I'm going to be giving a little prompt. I think I'm going to do this every episode, maybe not every episode because maybe it's not really relevant. But because of the tournaments this year, or this past week actually, a question came to mind. So if you're listening to this, drop a comment or review with your answer, and we will read it back next week. We'll see what answers came through. But the question for this week is, what non-Grand Slam tournament is top on your wish list to attend? Nick.
Indian Wells. I don't think I need to go into much more detail than that because every episode of the podcast over the last sort of month or so has been, I want to go to Indian Wells.
Yes.
So probably longer than a month. Last 2 months has been, I want to go to Indian Wells. I feel like I'd be repeating myself.
Exactly. You have been talking about it for a long time. And my answer is very relevant to this week, and it is Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo is very high on my wish list of a non-Grand Slam tournament to attend. And this week only, made it go higher on my list. If it wasn't number one before, now it totally is. So we're going to be talking today about all things Monte Carlo. We will also be hitting on Billie Jean King Cup and all the other tennis news that has happened during the past week.
Point of clarification, is it a tournament you've attended you've not attended before?
Yes.
Or is it in general? Yes.
Yes. No, definitely something you haven't attended before. Yeah, because then it wouldn't be on your wish list. Then it wouldn't be a wish list tournament. But yeah, so that is what we're hitting on this week. If you did not listen to last week's episode, I never say this, but just stop listening now and then go back, listen to last week's, and then come back because it was awesome.
It was fantastic. I absolutely loved that podcast. I listened back to it and I loved it even more the second time listening to it back. And just Abigail is a very engaging person, and sort of her tips about life are inspiring. She is definitely a role model for a lot of us. So I definitely say go check that out.
Yeah, it was incredibly listening back while I was editing it, and just thought, you're right, just for life, all her quotes were just so relevant, and it was a really great episode to listen back to. It's just one that's just should always be on the queue. If you're ever feeling like you need some motivation, just listen to the Meet the Professionals episode with Abigail Johnson. So really excited about that one. And for more interviews that we are going to hopefully bring you this season on that series. So let us begin. Let us begin where we left off, because I think when we left off, I was heading to Charleston.
Yes, which once again you kept secret from everyone else.
That's the way to do it. But do you know who knew before everyone else? Substack. Substack knew before everyone else.
And Substack is the place to go if you want to find out everything to do with Charleston, because we're not going to do a full recap on it, and that would take I don't think it would do justice to the amount of content that Anastasia did. But if you do want to hear about it, go subscribe to our Substack. Is there any other ways that we're going to be letting people know about it?
Yeah, because I think one thing that we have kind of developed over time with Ground Pass is we love to talk about all these tournaments. We love to talk about tournaments and how you can go to them on a Ground Pass and what to expect. So we are going to be releasing a review video of what Charleston is like. That's going to live on our YouTube. It's going to come out next week. And then also going to do a little write-up on our website as well, because I want something that people can just go to year after year, because this is actually something that I find lacking. Every time I want to go to a new tournament, I immediately go look online and say Charleston Open, Monte Carlo, all those things. And for the most part, you can go to the tournament website itself and get some information. But I think what is missing sometimes is just a fan's perspective, someone who knows where the sun shines on a court, who knows like the secret entrance to this court, or, what time period to buy ticket, just a little bit of an inside track on stuff like that. So I think we will be putting on our website what that is, and it'll just live there. We'll update it every year. So if you didn't know we had a website, groundpasspodcast.com is where you can find all of that stuff. Actually, super great tip for those who just like to read, because I didn't realize this, but a lot of people just want the transcripts of podcast episodes and they can read it back. I didn't know this. So I actually do put all the transcripts, or the transcription of each podcast is on there. So if you want to go check that out, if you like photos from tournaments, we have that there too. But yeah, so not going to touch a lot about Charleston. What I will say is it is the best WTA 500 level event, at least that I have attended. And it's mostly because of the people. The people there are just really great.
And is that the people who are the local residents of Charleston, North Carolina, or is it the people at the tournament?
It's everyone. It's the players, the people at the tournament, the residents of Charleston. There's a very small town feel. I have not been to a tournament where I'll meet someone in town and then meet them on the grounds as well. Like, it's that small and close.
Interesting. The idea of Charleston being a place where like everybody in town that goes to that event when the tennis comes in. And that sounds like a really sort of fun, cozy event almost. And home away from home. So I can see why it's a very popular event. And you can find out more about why it's a very popular event by watching back on Substack or reading our website, which is great. Yes, the website is getting some love. And I love this idea of a resource that people can go and find all this information on. And it's going to take a while to update, but we'll get there.
Oh yeah, please do not expect an entire debrief of every single tournament we've been to so far on there. It's going to take a minute to build up, but that is always going to be there as a resource for you. Okay, let's get into what happened this week. And I'm really sorry, guys, if you hear some music in the background. I think my neighbors just decided to have a disco party in their apartment, so I don't know what's happening.
Full on 1970s Saturday Night Fever.
Like, literally. And I'm like, wait, what is going on? But hopefully you're not picking that up too much.
Well, I can't hear it when we're recording, so that's a good sign. So I guess this podcast is staying alive.
Yes, fingers crossed. Okay, what happened this week? I returned to New York from beautiful sunny Charleston to just rain and dark, cloudy skies all week. Like it's been awful. And the only ray of sunshine that I had was watching Monte Carlo. Like that was my ray of sunshine. Did you get to watch did you get to watch a lot of this tournament?
Not loads because to be honest, the way the tournament was scheduled, it was when I was at work. So like it was usually finishing by the time I got back from work a lot of the time. So and this weekend I've had other things on, but also I have been choosing to watch Billie Jean King Cup a lot, because you know I've got to support the GB girls. So yeah, that's. But I've been catching what I can, and certainly from what I see of it, I think Monte Carlo has possibly one of the best stand views you'll ever see. Just looking out over the Mediterranean, from up high, like I mean, there's courts nestled in mountains, and that looks beautiful as well. But there's something about just looking out over that view,
Yeah.
is incredible.
Yeah, that view was just every time they were playing the matches and they would just like go to a wide shot, I just thought, oh my word. I mean, it just looks so, I don't know, it's almost otherworldly because there are mountains on one side and then on the other side is just the ocean and then this beautiful clay court in the middle. And if you don't know, now you know, clay court season is my favorite season. I think we've talked about this on this podcast before, but I like the natural surfaces, clay, grass, like that is my vibe. But clay season is just my favorite. I feel like, especially for the players who know how to work the surface, there's so much beauty they can create in the shots that they play. So just having that, the vista, I really wanted to go, but we have someone who went. We know someone who went. Nick, you were able to get a voice memo from who went to Monte Carlo.
So James, who is a friend of ours, on the tennis internet, as it were, the on the forums on X. He's known as Tennis Ranter on there,
Good
and
name.
yeah, good red name. And generally, he is the go-to for all things Brit. But this is like the third time he's been to Monte Carlo, and he's written about visits before, on sort of Popcorn Tennis, which was a site, a tennis writing site he and I used to contribute to, back in the day. It doesn't run anymore.
I actually
Um,
think I remember this. Last year, can you imagine? This is our second Monte Carlo episode, but we talked about Monte Carlo last year, and I think we included James's
James,
article.
so I heard James was going back, and obviously we he's listened to a few of our podcasts before, and so I thought I'd reach out to him and say, hey, can you tell us what it's like this in 2025? Because things can change, and judging from what he said, things have changed a little bit.
Yes, here is James from Monte Carlo.
So what can I say about the Monte Carlo Masters? Well, it almost feels as though it is a bit of a constant battle between Le Blue and Forza Italia in terms of the almost Davis Cup atmosphere it can turn into. It's almost a home event for both French and also Italian players. And if you ever get a chance to end up on, you know, one of the courts where you have an Italian versus a French, it can really turn into a fantastically raucous atmosphere. The match I was on this year was Gasquet versus Arnaldi, and there was a point you would think that there'd be more French fans in the stand than there would be Italian, but there was generally louder cheers for the Italian fans than there were for the Italian player Arnaldi than at times for Richard Gasquet. And it's just you get in that atmosphere, you feel the buzz of the crowd, the stomping of the chairs, and you can really feel the passion for the tennis. And at a time when sort of tennis is moving either away from this the smaller format as we're seeing for the Masters, or potentially looking at going to areas of the world which don't have that sort of tennis culture. It is a real stark reminder of why we love it and why we want we want those atmospheres and those and those vibes and whatnot to work the way they do in places like Monte Carlo. But I was going to give you some top tips. You have to, if you can, end up trying to go on both of the main courts if you can over a couple of days. Of course, you've got Court Ranter, the main court, which even at the top of the stand, you still get a great view of the court, and you see the scenery and up into the mountains, and if you're at the top of the stand, you can see over the banisters to have a look at the Mediterranean Sea. And if you're on the stand that's closest to Duprances, then you can look over and have a look to see what's happening on that court. And it's one of the sort of best sights when you're on Duprances, or you're on maybe court 2, and you're seeing people staring over the top of the banister, to top of the sort of like stands to have a look at what is going on. And I always say that the sort of what feels like the best kept secret in tennis, especially given with the 56 format of Monte Carlo, is the great matches and the great atmospheres that you can get on Duprances. It's you're very condensed, and the noises are fantastic. You're literally sitting mere meters away from sort of top what can be top 10, top 20, top 30 players playing in their absolute prime. And the idea that this could be almost like the tennis masters also the tennis paradise of the clay season very much rings true. When it comes to the type of tickets, the most common ones in which you will note will be the ones for Ranter, where you can get either ones that are right courtside, which tend to be the most expensive, and then there are also ones that are a little bit further up the stands, which tend to go down in price, but still can be the back end of the week can be quite pricey. But the best bargain is Duprances, which is the second court, where pretty much barring the first couple of rows, every single ticket on that court is the same price, and it tends to be half the price that you would pay to get on Ranter. And if you go at maybe looking at round the 16 day, where you've got 4 fantastic singles matches on there, that's a bargain. Or even any point earlier in the week, it's a real worthwhile ticket. They have changed things for the new court. They recently changed the court 2 to Etel Massé. That one you have to have a ticket to one of the top 2 courts, and then actually purchase an extra ticket to get on Massey these days. I'm not a fan of that. I felt court 2 under its old format worked really well, when any fan could rock up to that court, and it generally gets some great atmospheres on there, and you always hear the shouts and the cheers from that stadium. But just to wrap up, if you can, you have to at least go to Monte Carlo for an attempt to experience that Masters 1000. And just could recommend it anymore.
Now, another thing that I love the mostest is team tennis vibes, and listening to James talk about what the crowd is like between sort of like the French and Italian players when they're there, and it's a little bit like Davis Cup. I now have to go to Monte Carlo. Like, that is an atmosphere that I want to be in the middle of.
Yes. I mean, well, obviously it's your kind of atmosphere for kind of when it all gets noisy. And certainly it does feel like a mini French Open with some of the crowd there. There's even been a few of the classic French chant that we will probably hear echoing through the stands of Roland Garros popping up now and again. But also, I think, when you see who does well at Monte Carlo, that's where a lot of the overlap happens.
So let's dive into a little bit to Monte Carlo. Now, Monte Carlo is it's a Master 1000 level event for the ATP only. It is a non-requirement. So if you follow us on, either Instagram or TikTok, I made this a little bit a part of our coffee catch up, where I give a little bit of a rundown of what the Monte Carlo Masters is. it's 1 week long, and because it's 1 week long, it meant that the matches just came hard and fast immediately. Like the seeded players had buys, but some of these first round matches, Nick, I was not ready. I had just come back from Charleston, and I really wasn't ready for Carlos Alcaraz versus Cerundolo or any of the other absolute blockbusters that we saw right from the jump.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously, yeah, 'cause Alcaraz Cerundolo, I think, that had blockbuster already all over it. We did potentially see a wobble for Alcaraz, but then that stopped after that first set with Cerundolo. The big moment, though, was Zverev getting knocked out by Berrettini in what was a first round epic, or second round technically, I suppose, because Zverev had a bye. And Berrettini, I thought he'd be dangerous anyway, because Berrettini's no slouch on the clay court. But the way he kind of kept up with Zverev and kind of was able to live with just what Zverev does was really, really impressive. And that 48-shot rally that Berrettini won basically set him up to win the match from that point, like in the deciding set. That is what everyone was talking about. It is one of the two, quotes, matches of the week on the ATP side, I would say. The other one we'll probably talk about a little bit later, involving a match that Anastasia was probably frothing at the mouth at when that started happening. There was a lot of excited texts between the two of us about that match. But the Zverev-Berrettini match was also pretty special and a great way to kind of set the tone for Monte Carlo, right?
Yeah, no, it really did. But it's really funny too. I had this feeling, and maybe because I had just come back from Charleston, I maybe needed a little bit of a break. But so I was like, oh, I'll just turn on Monte Carlo and it'll just be, some quiet first round matches. No. Because it's a 1 week event, what these 1 week events do is that it just throws you into the wolves' den right away, and you're fighting for your life, at these matches. And, that Zverev Berrettini match definitely set the tone, I think, for the rest of the week in the tournament. Zverev did lose in his quote unquote, it's technically his second round match because he got a bye for the first round. Sorry. But he's having a moment. The poor kid. Has he won a match? Well, I guess he has at some point, maybe one or two, since he lost the finals of.
He's not won many matches, though. I'll
right.
Just look it up now.
I think I talked about this too in a recent episode of how tennis isn't just about just hitting the ball. There is such a mental part to it too. And it really does seem like he is going through something, and you wonder if he can ever get out of the funk that he's in. But it is such a case study in how you also have to be mentally strong in tennis to win as well. You can't just have the best forehand and the best backhand or the best serve. That doesn't always work in tennis. And that's why, as a sport, I really do love tennis because of that. There's such a psychology to it as well.
To confirm, Zverev has played 6 tournaments since he lost the Australian Open final to Yannick Sinner. He's won 6 matches. Some tournaments he's got in the first round, others he's got a bit further, like Miami was his best tournament. He won 2 matches, got to the 4th round. But that's been the highlight, I'm afraid, for Alex. On average, he's winning 1 match per tournament at the moment, which is, solid for someone of his ranking, but not spectacular. So
no.
But you're right. Like right now, he just doesn't seem to have what he had for most of last year, and sort of being able to just win matches.
Yeah.
And that's going to affect him for the rest of the season, I think, because he didn't have many points to defend from this early part of the season in 2024. So we'll see how Clay treats him. He's coming up to Madrid, which is probably one of his favorite tournaments, and we'll see if that changes anything. Someone who maybe has changed their mindset, who also loves Madrid, is Carlos Alcaraz back?
He's back. You know
He
what?
woke up, guys.
But here's the thing too, because, and I think this is something for fans to sort of consider as well, but did he really go anywhere? Because if you think about it, he got
You're right, because I looked at his, because I've got a spreadsheet I track things on throughout the season, and I'm looking at like people's peak results, what will get them like a good chunk of points in one go. And actually, Carlos has been one of the most consistent big point scorers through the season. He's got quarterfinals in Australia, one Rotterdam, semi-finals at Indian Wells, and in a first for us, because we now actually have a result where we're recording, he's won Monte Carlo. So, he's actually chalking things up. So his results are better than maybe we would initially think the way we talk about it, because we're so used to him being the top player. It's very similar to the way we talk about Iga Świątek sometimes on the women's side.
And I think it's like
solid results are not good when you compare them to spectacular.
Exactly. And that's sort of where you kind of level set a little bit, because yes, he did go out for his first round, which is second round. Did he get a bye? Yeah, they all got a bye, right?
Yes. So bye,
Miami.
Ben Cerundolo, loses the first set.
In Miami.
Oh, Miami. Oh, yeah, Miami. Yeah, Goffin was a weird match.
Yeah. So he got a bye in Miami and then lost to Goffin in the second round. So yes, that is his one early exit this season. But sometimes the way people talk about it, you would think he was like Zverev, losing first round or at least not making it through the first round match. But he's done pretty well, although I think in the theme, in a weird kind of sort of theme of the Monte Carlo Masters, is this sort of everyone working on their sort of mental game. Because at the end, Carlos did talk about how he has not been feeling great, and he was maybe looking at the rankings a little bit too much and what other people were saying he was supposed to be doing. And that is why he kind of was in a slump in quote unquote. I mean, like if that was my slump, I would take it. Quarterfinals at the Australian Open, semis, I would take that slump. But and that goes on to another player, Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, who loves Monte Carlo and really did great at this tournament. But after his wins for his first couple of matches, he was very disappointed. He was like, I did not play well. My mind wasn't there. But they're all talking about it. Same thing with Lorenzo Musetti, who made it to the finals. After each win, it was such an emotional release for him going through. And I was just like, wow, the boys are going through it in Monte Carlo is what it felt like to me anyway.
And Clay makes you go through it by its very nature, because the rallies are longer. It's so physical. You have to hit through the ball a lot more. By that, which probably is a term probably doesn't mean a lot to most people listening, but it feels like you have to put the effort in, or at least put the endurance in, and the mind has to follow with that. And it's not surprising that. But it was great to see Davidovich Fokina, who's having a great season, get another good result, really push Alcaraz, and get a couple of good wins, despite, as he said, not playing well. Lorenzo Musetti, being so emotional and getting to the final, he did so well to get a set off Alcaraz in the final today. And someone else, I mean, look, if you want someone who was going through it, that person was probably Anastasia in the quarterfinals, when Carlos Alcaraz played Artur Fils, and that match, Fils could have won that match. He really could. He was pretty close to winning that match, and I had that on in the background when I was at work. It was I couldn't pay much attention to it, but occasionally when I would look up to be able to I've got 10 seconds I can watch a rally. The rally was insane. The rally was just like crazy ball striking from both. Both of them were all over the court. You had Feast trying to throw everything in his forehand to Carlos's backhand because he didn't want Carlos to go anywhere near the forehand. Both were all over the court. Carlos was just not having it.
Yeah.
And that was such a fun match. And that was me half paying attention, only paying attention, being able to pay attention to some of it. What was that match like for you, Anastasia?
It was so fun. It was, it was almost, and maybe this is why I like exhibition tennis, because I just love fun tennis. I think I posted afterwards to our Instagram one of the rallies, and I posted, if the ATP, whoever, Rolex, Monte Carlo Masters, if they want to sell tennis, they post this match for free. Just put it up there for free so everyone can watch it, and you cannot watch that match and not be a fan of tennis at the end. It was insane. You were like, what are they playing? What is this sport? Because it's not so much tennis as it is dancing and acrobatics and how they got to some of the balls. You're just like, how did he get that ball? How did the ball get into the court after he hit it that way? It was phenomenal. It was so fun. And again, with the whole emotional baggage or emotional response that everyone makes, Arthur Feast could have won that match. He was in control of the match. It was 5-5. He had won the first set. It was 5-5 in the second set, and he had 3 chances to break. It was love 40 to Alcaraz serve, and he had 3 chances to break. And Carlos was able to save all of those break points and get back on serve. And then you kind of knew that was it. Like, he broke Arthur Feast's spirit, that he could not convert any of those break points. And then Carlos broke to take the second set, and he was able to win the third, even though in the third set, Arthur Feast had the early break first. Like, it was such a fun match.
You say that Feast kept fighting. He kept fighting, and we've been seeing his fighting spirit over the last few weeks. Like, he's got to 3 consecutive Masters quarterfinals now. And he's had some really, like that, I was raving about that Tiafoe match he had in Miami. So yeah, he's a lot of fun. I don't think this will dampen his spirits too much, I would hope. But I highly doubt it. I think he's going to come back, and I agree with you that sort of, they were everywhere in that match. It was everything that you would want from clay court tennis, at least.
Yeah. You know who's now a clay court, or as he calls it, clay dog? A clay dog is Alex de Minaur. Who knew?
Yes, Mr. Bolter.
Mr. Bolter. He's a clay dog. His matches, I was sort of like, I was like, Alex de Minaur is going to win Roland Garros. That's how good he was playing. Like, it was insane, his level. And I just was like, where did this come from? Where did this all of a sudden just proficiency on clay, where did it come from? Which is very interesting. So a little backstory for Alex de Minaur. He is Australian, but he was raised and he trains in Spain. So he has been practicing on clay for the longest time, but he never was anyone who was sort of like, okay, yes, he's going to be super awesome on clay. Until this Monte Carlo Open, I was very, very shocked by his level. And then the match, which maybe Grigor Dimitrov was a little bit compromised because he had a couple of long matches under his belt, but he beat Grigor Dimitrov love and love. He double bageled him, which you just don't see on the men's tour. You just don't see a double bagel ever. And that was a weird match. It was 44 minutes long. And I don't...
Massetti broke that run, to be honest, because he crushed Massetti in that first set.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing, where it's like, so that was the quarterfinals. Semifinals, he plays Lorenzo Musetti. He wins the first set 6-1, and I'm thinking, again, Alex de Minaur is going to win the French Open.
It's not massively surprising to me because he did get to the quarters last year.
Yeah, but the way he did it, he just wasn't. He beat Daniil Medvedev 6-2, 6-2. Like the score lines he was putting up were insane. I thought, this is crazy. But then again, Lorenzo Musetti shut it down.
He did, and that's probably why he got so emotional. I mean, to be honest, Anastasia, I am surprised you were paying that much attention to de Minaur's tennis.
Well, there was the there was the shorts as well. There was the magical shorts.
What on earth? What on earth are those shorts?
I don't know.
It looks like something's happened where some kits have got mixed up. So I've obviously been watching Billie Jean King Cup, and those shorts look like they go on the girls for the Billie Jean King Cup team, which Katie Bolter's playing in, and I am wondering whether someone's laundry got mixed up.
Which is so funny because even Katie Bolter, he posted a photo of himself after one of his wins, and Katie Bolter replied, "Great win, but what about those shorts?" And if you don't know what we're talking about, so ASICS is the company that sponsors Alex de Minaur, and they have what do you call them? Like a collaboration with APC. Now, APC is a French brand. They're it's a contemporary French brand, kind of like, if you're in the States, a little bit of an elevated J. Crew kind of vibe. So they do khaki, very sort of clean cut, very chic clothing. It's very chic. It's very nice. They have this collaboration and they also actually sponsor a player that we're going to talk about later. Because I was saying, maybe I need to see this kit on someone else. But the way this kit fit on Alex de Minaur, it was just so oversized. Everything was it looked so oversized. But then the shorts were really short. So it wasn't like a Jack Draper US Open oversized, which was just sort of like that 90s oversized fit. This was just oversized and then really short shorts. And I think the shorts had a lot to do with the winning. So he's probably going to keep them through the clay season, I think.
We'll see if Katie will allow that. So, yes, I would. I mean, look, if you didn't know, you clearly don't follow our Instagram, because I'm pretty sure there was a post about Alex's shorts at least once a day on our Instagram. There you go. If that's our reason to follow us on Instagram, I don't know what is. Something else that was really cool that came up on Instagram, which is something that, when we're talking about meeting the professionals, Monte Carlo produced a video which showed behind the scenes of the tournament stringers, some of whom have been working there for ages, for years. Now, it is in French, so I think there are English subtitles.
Yes, they are English subtitles, yeah.
I think you shared it and it was on there, but I thought it was really cool. No other tournament's done that. No other tournament's offered that kind of insight into how something works. And talking to a stringer is something that we've talked about hoping to do one day on the pod. And I think it was a really nice thing to do, to kind of give it a little bit of insight in that world of what goes on behind the scenes. It's just a few guys having fun at work. That's what it is. And it looks so normal. It probably is normal to them, but it's such a specialist area, especially to us tennis fans. It's so cool. I mean, I still don't understand how strings work, but that was a really cool video. So I would recommend going and checking that out if you haven't already. Maybe we can link it.
Yeah, no, definitely go check it out. And I will link it in the show notes. It was just such a lovely, first of all, it was just a well-told story about a part of the tournament. And I really loved it. It reminded me of, I've been to all of these tournaments, and believe me, guys, I have probably only shared a quarter of all the video and things that I've taken throughout these tournaments, and I'll try and filter them through at some point while I am finally home. But I did talk to the stringers at the Delray Beach Open. I had almost like an hour-long video just talking to them. And I don't know if I will ever release it because the sound was really bad, because it was really hot in Del Rey and they had this massive fan that was just keeping them cool, but then it made the sound on the video just absolutely horrible. So I don't know if I will be able to share it ever. But it was very similar. Just the lives that they lead. They are the first people there because they have to be there once the tennis players arrive, and then the last ones to leave, because I never really understood kind of, if once they're done stringing the rackets, like, do they just go home? And they're like, no, as long as there's a match happening, they have to be there. And I remember I was talking to one of the guys, and it was after Kei Nishikori's match that he had played in Del Rey, and he had played a night match. And Kei Nishikori apparently is very specific, like even more so than others, like very specific about how he wants his rackets strung and who strings them. And he actually will bring them by himself. So he had to be on the ready if any time during the match he sent something back to be restrung, So it's a very interesting part of tennis that we don't see. And these guys are they're awesome. They string so many rackets, so many rackets during a tournament. So I will link that below for sure. Now, it is time to talk about the Billie Jean King Cup and some gripes I have with people online.
Oh, I think you and I have the same gripes. So for Billie Jean King Cup, which, if anyone's still new, is the Women's Davis Cup, women's equivalent of the Davis Cup. It is effectively the World Cup of tennis that happens every single year. And the group stages happened over the weekend. I'll just list off who is through before we talk about maybe some of the results in more detail. But the teams who are through that maybe we're not going to talk about so much: Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Japan. They have qualified. They're going to the quarterfinals, semifinal, the final stage that's going to be held in Shenzhen, China in September, just before the kind of opener of the Asian swing. And a few other teams through. But what I think was great about Billie Jean King Cup, especially this weekend, was it is a chance for our ground pass players to take center stage, and the people who aren't necessarily the top players for their countries, either because your number two player has to take part, they have to get a result, and so that highlights what other talent that nation has produced. But even if in a lot of cases, for most of the teams, that their most well-known players didn't show up. Iga Świątek didn't show up for Poland, even though their group was in Poland. Mm-hmm. That was a big deal. So this probably leads into what Anastasia is alluding to, which is what happened with the US team. Yes. Because with the US team, they were originally going to send Jessica Pegula, Danielle Collins, McCartney Kessler as the singles team. They only need to pick two of them, but obviously you're going to pick Pegula and Collins. Goff and Keys have obviously said no, they're not going. I think they would have been asked first, right? Why wouldn't you? But they've obviously decided it doesn't fit with their schedules. And then, Pegula and Collins, pretty much last minute, said, actually, we're not doing it. We're not playing.
Yeah.
And what happened?
So Pegula and Collins withdrew, which I was shocked they had said yes in the beginning. And maybe they thought they weren't going to do as well as they did in Charleston. Pegula.
Quick addition. Huh? Yeah. Just to kind of maybe justify something, Danielle Collins has in the last few hours pulled out of Stuttgart, which is happening this week. Okay. So I think Collins obviously has an ongoing thing going on.
Yeah. But it's like they had both gone super deep in Charleston. Pegula won the event. Danielle Collins got to the semis.
Quarters, lost to Pegula.
Yeah, in the quarterfinals of Charleston. And then Kessler was injured in Miami. So she obviously is still on the mend from that. Since they pull out, they send Hailey Baptiste, Alicia Parks, and Bernarda Pera. And the internet imploded.
Well, a specific section of the internet imploded.
You know what, though? I was actually, yes, definitely a specific section of the internet imploded, the ones that I feel like we usually will expect to implode. But I did see a lot of comments from some journalists who were like, oh, well, here we are again. The US is not that invested in team sports, was the sort of the underlining idea from this group, where the US isn't really invested in team sports because the top players are not going. Now, yes, I know Coco hasn't gone in a very long time. Madison Keys didn't go this time. But this is what we've been talking about, I feel, for a long time, is that the depth of American tennis it's so deep. There are so many good players, and I just felt it was, in a way, a slight to basically what we've been, praising all this time. Like, I think in the last few tournaments, everyone keeps talking about, like, oh my goodness, there are like 17 players or so, or how many ever players are in the top 50, top 100 of the WTA Tour are American. And I was like, well, now that we've come to the Billie Jean King Cup, why is that now not praised? Not, like, just because the top 5 players are not going doesn't mean we don't have 12 others that can go and help the team. And these were a great team of players who, some of them, like Hailey Baptiste, it was her first time ever representing the US at Billie Jean King Cup. And they're all great players. And everyone was like, they're not going to make it. Guess what?
Oh, they did. They're through.
Oh, they did. They not only...
Emphatically.
They made it emphatically. They did not lose a match.
Nope.
Like,
not even
guys,
a doubles match.
Even double. They won everything. Hailey Baptiste, her first 2 matches ever for Billie Jean King Cup, same thing with Bernarda Pera, won their matches.
So I kind of get this from a competitive perspective. If you are a competitor, you want your country to be the best.
Yes.
The Americans have an advantage.
Yeah.
In that you have, like, not only the depth of the top 100, but you have, like, the Americans have 4 players in the top 10 now, with, well, obviously 3 of the top 5. Then you add a Navarro, who's going to be, I don't think he's top 10 right now, but she will be after next week. Mm-hmm. Or most likely be after next week. You've got Anastasia, who's also top 20. That's 5 in the top 20. I didn't even mention Anastasia in my list earlier. And, you keep going down the list and, that's it. And the thing about it is that, like, from a competitive perspective, the further down the rankings you go, the more evenly matched it gets amongst everyone. If you throw your top guys at it, you're pretty much going to guarantee to smash down the door and win. Yeah. Now, Baptiste and Pera pulled through, and they did amazingly for their team. But I think if you're on a looking at everything just on paper from a competitive perspective of, like, well, why are our top players not supporting the team so we can have the strongest team possible? And there's also that whole national pride thing that annoys me in general, whatever country we're talking about. So I have more specific thoughts, but I'm going to save them for later on that. If that's not a hint, I don't know what is. But yeah, I think I will play devil's advocate in that moment. But I do think that I agree with you that the depth that America has in the top 100 is underappreciated. Depth in the top 100 is top 100 players underappreciated in general, because that's why we do these player Fortnight things, because nobody thinks that top 100 players are any good. And in fact, they are a small percentage of anyone who plays tennis. Yes. And are very, 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 very good. And just because you only want to see the people with that extra very on it, your top 10, your top 20, doesn't invalidate how good a tennis that someone in the top 100 is able to produce day in and day out, which is kind of where I'm at, which is the same as you, Anastasia.
Yeah, yeah, no, we're always going to be the champions of the sort of under 20, the under 20 players, because I think they just should at least, I thought, especially for people who are having their first experience of the Billie Jean King Cup, should not have to read online, oh, well, they sent the C team. What? I would love to be in the C team. I am on the Z team. Not even. I don't even make the alphabet at this rate. So, I'm so happy for them. I'm glad that this was a great first experience for them. And I can't wait to see who they send to Shenzhen. I hope they send this exact same team to Shenzhen and see how that goes, because I think they're a very good group of players and they played well together. It seemed like they really played well together as a team, and that's what team events are about. So, go Team USA. You guys did awesome.
In all likelihood, though, I think they probably will be sending top players, because Shenzhen is now going to probably be a good warm-up for the Beijing and Wuhan 1000s, where there's 2,000 points on the table for whoever wins. So yeah. I think that could end up being a critical part of their warm-up. Shenzhen as a tournament has been relatively attractive to players in the past, if they're not too tired after playing 3 Grand Slams in 3 months, 3-4 months. I mean, look, I'm feeling pretty good about my team as well, because GB also made it.
Yes,
they crushed Germany, which, if you're a British sports fan, that's a big deal. And then and then the Netherlands got a little bit scary, because Sonic Cartel did amazing. Yeah. Shout out to Sonic Cartel, who, if you've now listened to Abigail's interview and our Indian Wales review, you'll now understand why I gave Sonic Cartel Player of the Fortnight in Indian Wales. She deserved that probably here. She got her job done. She won her matches. Susan Leymans really stepped up for the Netherlands and beat Katie Boulter. And this was like now a doubles match, winner takes all. Winners gets their team into the quarterfinals out of the groups. And Leymans was playing along with Demi Schurz, who's a very good doubles player, has been like an elite doubles player for a long time now. I think she's nearly in her 40s at this point. And Brits played Katie Boulter and Jodie Burrage, who is coming back from injury at the moment. And Boulter and Burrage thrashed the Dutch pair. I was not expecting this. I was being surprised. Well, that's it. They've got someone who's really, really competent, plus a really good doubles player. The Brits are having an uphill battle, and Boulter and Burrage just went for it. And I was so impressed by the way they basically went out there and took that match and took GB back to the final 8 in the competition, which was amazing. So I'm so happy to kind of see that happen, especially, again, there was sort of similar comments about the team after Emma Raducanu decided she wasn't playing. In fact, she's actually by ranking second best player. Even if she has the most impressive overall CV, she is the current second best ranking, and Sonai Cartel is not that far behind her either. So we actually sent out the strongest team almost that we could have, and got the job done. And yeah, we were the favourites, but we wouldn't be British sport if we didn't make it hard for ourselves in the process. So,
especially when it's being played on indoor clay, which is a great sort of warm up if anyone's going from there to go to Stuttgart, my favorite tournament.
Which is a 250 that's happening in the same this week coming up on the WTA. So that's what's coming up bit for the WTA out the way, because Stuttgart and Rouen, that's starting this week. We'll probably go into a bit more detail on sort of what's happening with those. I do want to just wrap up the other teams through in Billie Jean King Cup, which is, so GB are through. Italy have already qualified because they won the tournament last year. China is also in the quarterfinals because they're hosting it. The last team through was Spain, which was a bit of an upset because one, they didn't have Paula Badosa, and two, they were in a group with Czechia, who, like the USA, have an insane depth of talent. And Jessica Buzas-Monero keeps pulling off these upsets. She did it again, beating Noskova and basically sealing the result for Spain, having, after Sorribes Tormo beat Marie Buskova. So that was a result that I wasn't necessarily expecting, but guess we'll see if Paula Badosa shows up in that. So I wanted to mention that story about Spain, and again, more great. Jessica Buzas-Monero is probably a player you need to keep an eye out for in our Grand Pass. I think that's, especially if she's playing a seed, because she keeps doing this. She beat Vondrousova at Wimbledon last year, was the defending champion.
Yeah.
And I do want to name one more person before we move on, because...
Well, what I did want to mention about the British team and being on indoor clay, because it's something that you might hear if you see, like, they're... The host country who's hosting in Billie Jean King Cup, they get to pick the location of what and where matches are played. And for Team GB, this is the second year in a row that their qualifying has been put on indoor clay. And I think it's because in general, I think players from different locations are put in boxes. If you're in Spain, they're like, oh, they're really good on clay. Or if you're maybe a US player, they're like, oh, they're super good on hard court, you know? And I think putting Team GB on indoor clay was sort of a tactic, and they seem to win it every single time. So maybe next time, just put them on grass. It'll be fine.
Or put them on outdoor clay, because I think indoors does change how clay plays a little bit, and it does play a little bit more on some of the strengths of potential British players. Having said that, if anyone's ever watched Sunlight Cartel, she is a grinder worthy of a clay quarter. She will quite happily rally all day and use those characteristics to her advantage, and she did just that throughout this weekend. So yes, you're absolutely right. Trying to disadvantage Team GB like that doesn't work right now. You're absolutely right. I hadn't realized you hadn't finished your point. I do very want to. This is a very quick point for me. Victoria Mboko is an 18-year-old Canadian player who, as of now, has only lost 2 matches in 2025. 2 matches. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why have I not heard of her, and why are you talking about her, Nick? Victoria Mboko made a bit of a splash in Miami, but we didn't really talk about her much in our Miami wrap-up because a lot of other stuff happened. Specifically, this Filipino player called Alex Ayala came along and kind of overshadowed the whole thing, quite rightly, because she got some insane results. Whereas Mboko, she got a good win against Camila Osorio and then lost a thriller with Paula Badosa, lost in a final set tiebreak, or 7-6 or 7-5 deciding set. And that was really, really cool. And then now she's won her 2 matches for Canada. Like, Canada went out of the Billie Jean King Cup. They lost in their final match to Japan, which with the winner takes all match. And Mboko did all that she could. She literally did everything that she could to keep Canada in. Won every match that was required of her. And the reason probably you haven't heard of her is because she's only been playing ITFs other than Billie Jean King Cup and then that Miami tournament where she got a wild card. She is a very exciting prospect, and I want to make sure that we don't overlook her on Ground Pass, especially if we start hearing more and more and more from her, which is why I want to bring her up now as a watch this space. I'm probably going to mention her again.
What is her ranking right now? Do we know?
Oh, it's outside the top 100. Still.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it's risen rapidly over the last 3 months.
Because technically, so the reason why she hasn't been playing this, first of all, she's young, hasn't been playing main draw matches. She got the wild card into Miami and might, because she's an IMG athlete, get a wild card into Madrid maybe if she's, still in Europe playing. So it'll be interesting. She's definitely one to follow. If you follow us on social media, I've posted about her now numerous times. And she did really, really well for Canada. Canada that did not have Leylah Fernandez. I think that was the theme of this Billie Jean King Cup, that most of the usuals, I think, who play Billie Jean King Cup were just either unavailable, injured, taking a break, something, this season. So definitely one to watch. Really great player. Yes, Nick.
Got her ranking. She is now on Monday's rankings. When this episode comes out, she will be 157. So she is currently in Grand Slam qualifying territory.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Highly anticipate to get a Madrid wildcard. If you're going to Madrid, go watch on the Grand Pass.
Yeah, definitely. And the young Canadian coming up the rankings, so definitely one to watch there. What else? What else happened in tennis was mostly about the coaches.
There's a lot of coaching news that happening. And they're all people who, showing my age here, I grew up watching, or at least were kind of either I was watching sort of during their peak, or one of them I just missed, but all kind of winding down the
Yeah, I think it was definitely during United Cup, Australian Open. I was sort of super excited about like super coaches, and I was like, it's the year of the coaches. The year of the coaches continues.
It's happening, guys.
It continues because Marat Safin is going to now be coaching Andrei Rublev. I don't know if they've put I don't know if they put only for the clay season stipulations on it.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Again, we might have some newer tennis fans. Who is Marat Safin?
Oh, well.
Sorry, Anastasia. I know who Marat Safin is because he retired when I was an early fan.
And this is definitely for the casuals, because how I even know Marat Safin is because I can't even remember what tournament it was, but in his coaching box for the tournament, instead of having, I don't know, your coach or your agent or whoever it is, your family, he literally there were 3 models in his coaching box. This is it's one of the most popular sort of lores of tennis, or just memes of tennis. But if you want to just get an idea of Marat Safin, he was the bad boy of the 90s. He was the bad boy of the tennis 90s.
Which was ironic because he won his Grand Slams in the 2000s. Yeah.
But that was his reputation. That was his vibe. And he hasn't.
I'd say about the Safin Rublev relationship based on that. The Safin Rublev Rublev amuses me for 2 reasons. One, I don't know why Andrei Rublev is picking someone who was in his prime, also incredibly explosive emotionally, but in a very different kind of destructive way. And also how someone who off the court is as one of the good boys of tennis now in Rublev is partnering with someone who had Marat Safin's reputation from
who was the bad boy of tennis
25 years ago now.
But I think it has to do a lot with almost someone who, in the sense that you say Marat Safin was very explosive on court, and maybe it's sort of someone who almost knows what you're going through or understands where your emotions are coming from, is maybe someone who can help you work through those. Because he did say, when this partnership was announced, he did say he's had a relationship with Marat Safin before. And he's kind of talked about it where, he said Marat Safin has talked to him and they've had different conversations before this coaching relationship began. And now there's a coaching relationship as well. So the first tournament they were at together was the Monte Carlo Masters, and they're going on. I can't remember if there's some sort of end date, or maybe this is sort of a trial period or something, but they're together in Barcelona right now. I've seen photos on social media and things like that. So the relationship continues. And then Diana Schneider, one of our favorites on Ground Pass, is being coached now by Dinara Safina.
That is correct. By the way, Dinara Safina is Marat Safin's sister.
I know it
Um, because in Russia,
so
like if you're a woman, add an on the end of your surname. Don't know why. I need to do the research on that.
I
But
think it's just
yeah,
the feminine version. So they
feminine
have
version.
like the masculine and the feminine version of their surnames. Um, but
And Safina is Safina herself is a former world number one as well. She famously won Roma Madrid, but didn't quite get over the line to win a Grand Slam. But I think it's great to see it because she's been kind of behind the scenes for a long time. So it's great to see her out and about and in this coaching relationship with Diana Schneider. And I'm interested to see where that goes and what insight she brings.
yeah, no, and it's funny because both siblings have been out of the tennis world up until now, and it's very interesting that they're both choosing pretty much the same time to come back into it as coaches. With Danira specifically, I do love this almost. It seems a bit of a wave, maybe just a little eddy. I don't know, but a bit of a wave of top female coaches coming onto the scene, especially in the WTA. We see what Conchita Martinez, who's been coaching for a while, has done with Mira Andreeva. So it's nice to see yet another female coach come in. Katie Bolter, Marta Kostyuk, they all have female coaches as well. So I like it. Anna Kanskaya. I think it would be nice to do something in all of the current female coaches out there, and I hope it's a trend that keeps going and we see a lot more female coaches on the tour.
I agree. I think that's going to be super exciting. Fortunately, we don't need to give too much of a introduction to the next player because we know who it is. Goran Ivanisevic is a name you've heard before. He's coaching again. It looks like he's coaching Stefanos Tsitsipas.
Yes, it looks like he's joining Team Tsitsipas, which I think would be genius. I mean, anyway, whoever Goran chooses to coach, I think it'll be great. He didn't have much luck with Elena Rybakina, who he started with earlier this year, but hopefully he'll be able to do some work with Stefanos Tsitsipas, who has dropped out of the top 10 for the first time since, I think, 16? Was it what they said? I think it's.
Did he not drop out the
2016?
top 10? Because there was a period where we didn't have any one-handed backhand in the top 10 last year. So I think he did drop out briefly in 24.
Right, but then it was like I
was a
think I
blip.
remember it was like 1 week and then he was back in or something. But yeah, but he's going to be, maybe it's the top 15 because he's now basically live rankings. He's the 16th best player in the world. So it's definitely a new time for Stefanos Tsitsipas, and we'll see if he can sort of use a little bit of Goran's magic to get back his form and get back to the top of the game there a little bit. I don't know. I think it would be a great partnership.
I think that would be really, really exciting too.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing what will happen, and especially let's see what Goran can do with maybe making Stefanos' game more effective.
Before we move on to sort of player of the fortnight and what's coming up, I just wanted to talk about Challenger TV coming to Tennis Channel. So this is a little bit of a change because Challenger TV you can just get on, and when we say Challenger TV, specifically on the ATP side, because I think WTA you still have to go to their website to do that. But Challenger TV is usually available on the ATP website through their Challenger web online platform, but it is coming to Tennis Channel. You weren't previously able to watch Challengers on the Tennis Channel, but now it's going to be coming there. And it'll probably be on T2 as well, which is their free tier of Tennis Channel. So once we have more details on that, I'll bring it, but I just wanted to put it out there that it's coming. And it also means that Challengers, because if you watch Challenger TV, there's one angle for the most part. It's a little webcam on the baseline and looking at the court, and that's all you saw. So apparently they're going to bring a little bit of more of a higher level production to Challenger TV, and you can see more angles and things like that. So
which is
more
great
to
if
come.
you are an avid enthusiast of the game and you want to see these players coming up or fighting to kind of get into Grand Slams, which is what a lot of these players are. And you can see things like, on the WTA side, you can watch Alex Ayala playing in the WRS 125, which is happening this week. Or you could have potentially watched, how do you pronounce his name? He won the Madrid Challenger today against Marin Cilic.
Kamil Maszak. He's from Poland.
Yes. We talked a bit about what's happening with the WTA. So Stuttgart 500 is happening. That's got 6 out of the top 10 players playing in it. It's a stacked event. It feels like a mini 1000. That's all I should have to say to sell it. And the winner gets a car. That's kind of the shtick behind it. It's indoor clay. You'll see Sabalenka, Swiatek, Goff, Pegula, Andreeva all kicking off their clay court seasons. That's going to be super exciting to see what kind of comes out of that. You've got Rouen, which is a 250 happening in France. I guess the big story coming out is that's where Bianca Andreescu, the 2019 US Open champion, is making her comeback for 2025. That's also going to be indoor clay. And then on the ATP side, we have 2 500s happening, Anastasia.
We have 2 500 happening. Barcelona, where Carlos Alcaraz is probably going to be playing again. We have Stefanos Tsitsipas. We have Andrei Rublev, Alex de Minaur. Ethan Quinn, who played qualifying, or Ethan Quinn, who has been player of the Fortnight before, I believe, friend of the podcast. He's going to be playing Barcelona. He played through qualifiers, and he has drawn the one and only Carlos Alcaraz in the first round.
You are so watching that match.
Good luck, Ethan Quinn. I will be rooting for you. So going to be watching that. Then we have the Munich 500 where Alexander Zverev is playing. They've had a few withdrawals out of Munich. I know Jan-Lennard Struff, who won it last year, he's going to be there to defend his title. So we will see what is coming out of Munich. And then I do want to mention the
Rice.
It's a very cool destination. I've seen photos of it. I will be posting some of the photos of it because it kind of reminds me of the UTS Tour Coliseum event that was just that had this really, really cool location. The Arias seems like almost like old ruins. And there's a tennis court in the middle of it. So it looks really, really cool. There is a dual challenger happening, ATP and WTA. And like Nick said, Alex Ayala is going to be playing there. It's the first time we have seen her since the Miami Open. So really excited to see how she does there for sure. Next player of the fortnight. Mine this week is actually Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. He is a Spanish player. I think because of his run at the Monte Carlo Masters, he got all the way to the quarterfinals. I think he's going to be in the top 30 now in the live rankings, if I remember correctly. But he's from Spain. He's been around for a bit. But what I didn't realize up until Monte Carlo is he was the ATP player up until Monte Carlo with the most wins on tour. And that is pretty impressive for Alejandro. He's having a very, very good season, even though it's not leading to titles yet, but he has constant momentum and he was able to do very well this tournament. Yes, in the beginning, after every win, he was kind of like, I did not play well. I have to play better. So he was definitely working through some things there, but I think he's super fun. There is a Twitter account that follows him that is titled Did Foki Fall? His nickname is Foki, Foki, and he tends to not be very firm on his feet and he tends to float around and fall a lot on court. But he did not fall, not one time at Monte Carlo. So he's doing better. And I just think he's a fun player to watch. And especially this clay season, I'm expecting that he's going to do some things. He already has been, and I think he definitely is worth a watch if you are going to a tournament on a ground pass. He'll be there.
Oh yeah, especially since he probably will be seeded low enough that he'll definitely be there, at least for the first couple of days. And yeah, he is very fun to watch.
Yeah.
Especially when he does decide to, play tennis lying down, as occasionally he decides he needs to do. I don't think anyone's surprised by my choice of players of the fortnight. Now, I did cheekily put Victoria Mboko in earlier because I kind of thought I needed to mention her, and I was thinking about her. But I'm actually going to go with a couple of players that we've mentioned already, and that is Hailey Baptiste and Bernarda Pera, because partly because of what we talked about was with the reaction of who are these people playing in the USA team now? Where are the stars? And my response is, if you've been to the US Open on a ground pass, probably would have seen them. I probably would have seen them play. They're at very different stages in their careers. Hailey Baptiste is 23. She's just getting going. Bernarda Pera is 30. She's been around for a bit. Both made their Billie Jean King Cup debuts. Both of them won both their singles matches. It didn't need to go to doubles. The result was decided. And so, I think you should go celebrate Team USA, particularly if you're an American fan. If you're not an American fan and you just like good tennis, go watch them anyway. But this is particularly when the US swing comes around. Go watch them, go support them, go show your appreciation for getting your team into the next round so that the stars can pick up, where Baptiste and Pera did all the hard work, and get to know these players, because they're both very interesting players and well worth paying attention to. So I am cheating a little bit by having two, but I don't think it's fair to give it to just one of them.
That is fine. A dual player of the fortnight. And we have a Meet the Players episode coming soon, maybe not next week, but the following, with Hailey Baptiste. I got to sit down with her in Charleston, so expect that on our YouTube. I will post when it's live. But yes, definitely both players to watch and keep up with throughout the season, for sure. So that is it for us. Thank you for joining us this week on Ground Pass. It was definitely a busy week. Next week, we will be coming to you with a mini pod, and then we'll be back again in a couple of weeks with a full episode. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave us a 5-star rating. On YouTube, please subscribe and like, and we will see you next week. Bye.